Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cracking the Code presented by OnFlit. CTC Live is our weekly series where we connect you with masters of unconventional careers, people who not only made offbeat choices but also pursued their passion. These are the people who have now become prominent names in their respective industries and are champions of their domains. On CTC Live, we connect you with YouTubers, stand up comics, digital content creators, solopreneurs, artists, anchors, actors, chefs, stylists, and many more people like that. These are the people who come here on Cracking the Code Live, share their stories, talk about how they achieved it, and how can you do it too. Today, it's our 17th episode with Kunal Rajput. Before I introduce Kunal and add him to the stream, I would request all of you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're coming here for the first time. So, Kunal is a certified strength and conditioning coach. Kunal has coached thousands of people from all across the country and has been active influencer in the fitness journey of various celebrities, including Sara Ali Khan, Nimrat Kaur, and many more. Kunal is a budding entrepreneur in fitness industry and he's also the founder of The Moment. And during the lockdown, he did something very interesting, which is called Unlock. And we'll be discussing about Unlock as well at length during the conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is one of the well-renowned names in Indian fitness industry. He is an entrepreneur and the only four Nike coaches in India. Put your hands together for my very dear friend and one of the India's top fitness influencers, Kunal Rajput. Hey Kunal, how are you? Good evening and welcome to Cracking the Code.
Thank you for such a humbling welcome, Dilnawaz. It always makes me happy to speak to you, man.
My pleasure. And for all those who are going to watch this episode, let me put it on record. This is the second or the second conversation we're having on a live stream. Last time we did it on Instagram. This time we're doing it on YouTube and Facebook. But I think the entire conversation and the context will change this time as we're discussing, because this time it's going to be more from you as an entrepreneur, you as a fitness influencer, more from the industry point of view. So I'm very excited for today's conversation, and I'm sure this conversation will be super fun and super helpful for people who want to venture into the fitness industry and also understand the perspective post-COVID era and all things like that. And also, let me also put on record, Kunal, thank you so much for doing this today. One, because on such a short notice, and second, you just landed in Bangalore, as you said. So you're doing this live from a hotel room. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm really, it's a pleasure to talk to you every time. We have been off and on in touch, and it's super fun to see you growing and doing so many things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to for the conversation.
Same here, man. So I just landed in Bangalore, just saying. But my friend is hosting me. She always hosts me here, and she's also one of the Nike coaches. So in this particular house, now, all the Nike coaches are here, except one. But all three of us, who the Nike trainers, we have this very tight knitted friendship. We're staying at the same house right now. So yeah, just a fun fact, just putting it out there.
Okay. So I think it's a good point to begin with. I wanted to ask you something different to begin with, but I think it's a good point that you mentioned the Nike coach thing. I was reading this and it's a very interesting thing. And for the audience also, tell one, how do you become a Nike coach? And also, you're the only male Nike coach in the entire country wherein there are only four Nike coaches. That's a very interesting thing. So kind of take us in, help us explore this this bit like go into detail. What is this all about?
So okay, I'm going to try and explain this in length by not making it very but in as much as detail as I can give. So the thing with Nike is it does not have a certification. It does not have a program where it asks people to come in, do that certification or do that course, and then it certifies you so that you can be called as a Nike coaches. Or same means it's the same thing with the athlete program also. You cannot just fill out a form and be a Nike sponsored athlete or so on and so forth. The thing with Nike as a brand is like the brand itself is culturally so strong. It has such a massive amount of story behind it. And the kind of talent that it always pushes always has a story and always has some reason behind it. For example, they chose Roger Federer at the age of 11, and he was a Nike athlete till at the age of 11. They scouted
11.
Roger Federer.
Okay.
11.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, and they have been sponsoring him ever since. But the point I'm trying to make over here is like you cannot be a Nike coach while giving a certain exam. They scout you. So the thing is, coming back to this entire topic, what was happening is this was around 2014,
Mm-hmm.
2015. In 2014, 2015, women fitness or fitness in general um, was extremely focused on just giving out services to one stream of fitness, which is being bodybuilding and commercial way of working out, which
Mm-hmm.
was like old gym workouts and like conventional gym workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then but this was happening in this country, but globally it was a different scenario altogether, right? There were like
Hmm.
so many different sessions and all those things. Of
Oh.
course there were like certain pockets of the society in this country where functional fitness and CrossFit and HIIT and all those things were doing rounds, but at the same time it wasn't like all over the country. Then
Hmm.
Nike came, and at the same time, coming back, women fitness wasn't really a thing because
Hmm.
women used to work out, but they always had a kind of a barricade in front of them that they
Right.
had to cross when it comes to the education part of it. A lot of women, at least we're talking about the tier two, tier three cities and all those places, they had the knowledge was limited, and they always had a misconception that if they end up doing something um, which is in terms of strength gaining and so on and so forth, they will end up gaining muscles and they will look bigger, which is not so desired
Hmm.
look in uh, females. But they so Nike decided that, you know what, we need to change the game of the fitness industry in India, and we need to empower women and we need to educate them. So that's why the entire Dada Ding campaign was there. And while this was happening, they also had this app called as Nike Training Club app. Now, Nike Training Club app, just like Nike Running Club, is a place where you have workouts from all over the globe with coaches from all over and athletes from all over the globe uh, putting in and giving their workouts so that you can actually have a structured workout program while not having uh, assistance. So you can do it from the app itself. And this is back in 2015.
Hmm.
Um, so what Nike decided to do, that they wanted to make sure that women are being a part of this, and women are started to means women should be using this app as much as possible because it was
Hmm.
highly beneficial. But at the same time, how did they introduce it? So they started doing free sessions for women in Sophia's college and so on and so forth in Bombay. This was in 2015, 2014. And then the response was amazing. Then they wanted to increase it and they wanted to go all over the city, which is Bombay. And they
Hmm.
started having all these sessions. And then they realized that at that time they didn't have enough coaches.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
was only
Hmm.
for women, right? They didn't have enough coaches. So they started scouting for new coaches.
Hmm.
So they I think there was a massive amount of funnel. There's this massive funnel wherein like 200 or 300 potential coaches were there, in which I was one of them because I was very active on social media and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
also one of my good friends, Urmi Kothari, who's also the fourth Nike trainer right now, recommended my name. So I came into the list. We had an interview, uh, and after that interview, there was a process where I had to fill a form, which was a very interesting form because it had questions throughout this entire my knowledge book and so on and so forth. It was like IAS of fitness, to be honest.
Okay.
uh, so I had to pass that. Then after
Hmm.
that, I had to make a monologue, a montage of me, so that my personality, they can understand what my personality is. And
Hmm.
this everything was being scrutinized and observed by the global team, which was in the
Oh.
States. Yeah, and everything was happening. And then after that funnel of say from around 100 200 people, only 14 was selected, and 14 was selected for this trainer seminar that they had, which was a
Okay.
3-day seminar in Bandra.
Hmm.
And so we went through the entire ideology behind what Nike Training Club is and how to go about it and stuff like that. And then we had the final round where we had to coach these coaches who came down from London and
Oh wow.
UK.
Okay.
Yeah. And And out of those 14 coaches, cut to the next 2 months, and I was selected as one of the four coaches who were there. So I mean, my storytelling
Mhm.
capabilities are not that good, to be honest. But at the same time, you get the point, right? The point is, um, it was a like a nice mix of luck, opportunities, and at the
Hmm.
same time me being active at the right phase of the Indian fitness industry, and at
Hmm.
the same me making the most of the opportunity which I had, because every single thing which I was doing, for example, the interview which I was doing, I knew that it was going to be the most important interview of my life. Even that phone
Hmm.
call interview, when I was
Right.
filling the form, I had to make sure that all the answers which I'm giving has to be the best answers possible. When I was doing the trainer program, I had to make sure that no matter what previous Kunal is, that Kunal does not exist anymore. The Kunal who is going to exist in those 3 days is only going to be the version that I want to be in future. So I had to put up the best version of me out there, and I had to make sure that I'm keeping uh, or being as focused as possible. Because even at that time, those 14 people, and all of them, the 14 people were actually 14 women, out of which I
Hmm.
was the only guy who was selected.
Hmm.
All of them were
Hmm.
extremely prolific in their stream of fitness. They were the
Right.
best coaches in the country. And I was this 23-year-old guy uh,
Uh-huh.
who was there,
Right.
being infatuated by the fact that I am still in a position where I never thought I would be. And yeah, this happened, man. I think it
So,
was luck.
so when this was happening, how many years you had already spent into the fitness industry or doing fitness as a profession by then? कितना time लगाया था उससे पहले?
So I started working out myself when I was 18.
Okay.
Now, the thing with me working out was a bit different because I had the access to my father's gym. He owns a fitness center. At that time, he
Hmm.
owned a couple of fitness centers.
Hmm.
Um, you can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Hmm.
And so what I did was I used my pedigree was always about fitness, right? So the kind of knowledge that I had received from my
Hmm.
father and the
Hmm.
trainers on there were kind of different because I knew the tricks and trades of the entire thing right from the start.
Hmm.
Then when I was like 19, 20, the hustler in me, I can say, the engineer in me, the jugaad in me,
Hmm.
kind of realized that, you know what, it would be a good money to help. It would be a good way of earning pocket money
Hmm.
to, if I can actually just help and train other people.
Right.
In normal case I wouldn't be able to do that because I didn't have certification, but because it was my father's gym and but because I was in a certain physicality,
Hmm.
I could
Hmm.
train people. At that time I used to train people and like just get a certain amount of like cash just to make do. And this was when I was like 20. So from 20 to around 23, yeah, 23, right? Yeah. So 3 years into the industry. From
Okay.
23 onwards, yeah. So 21, 22, I did my first certification. And in
Okay.
the gap of like 21 to 23, I did around 4 or 5 certifications.
Okay. Okay. So then, so see, I have a lot of questions now based on the kind of, and I think it's a great context it is set up in the beginning, because I have
Yeah.
so much to talk about, whether it is the family, whether the father's gym, making money at early stage, the hustler in you, the entrepreneur in you now. So there's so many streams and things I want to kind of touch base upon now. So let's cut one thing at a time, and let's decode everything as we say. So
Good.
first I want you to talk a bit about so let's begin from the very beginning. Let's start from the very beginning, right? uh, I was going through a LinkedIn profile, and you have a BE degree, and then you were acting as a head of marketing for one of the companies, and then now you're a full-time fitness trainer. Take us through this entire journey of transformation from being an engineer to being a marketer to now being a trainer. And of course, we have already spoken a bit about the Nike part. I would definitely go a little deeper into that later on during the conversation, but I want to understand what was the mindset like, what was the transformation like, because an engineer turned marketer turned a trainer, and now full-time professional trainer, maybe partially a
Yeah.
celebrity trainer, and now maybe an entrepreneur for that matter. It's a very interesting transformation. Take us through that journey, and also take us to the mindset that was going on at that point in time.
Well, that's a very good question, man. I think the part of, so I've always had a very wavering mind, if I can say so, when it comes to like just finding a certain thing which I end up loving, right?
Mhm.
I get infatuated very early by things. I see the, and I'm a hopeless optimistic, to be
Acha.
honest. So
That's a
I
good,
see
good, good
from a
point.
very
Hopeless optimistic.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
I see things from a very positive tint, and I see that, oh, there is a chance in this and I can actually do something about it.
Hmm.
So when I was just, I finished my diploma, I did my diploma in engineering. After
Mhm.
10th, I did my diploma in engineering, which was electronics. And that was just a pure business decision from my mom's end, because I think for her, she was into this industry. I said my father owned a couple of gyms and stuff like that. So but it was never a super successful business model. And it's, of course, it like there's it's not about them not being good businessmen. It's just about the industry at that point of time wasn't doing that well. It like fitness itself wasn't being looked upon as, oh, you own a gym and stuff like that. No,
Hmm.
it was like,
Hmm.
oh, it's a tier 2 or tier 3 occupation.
Hmm.
So it never had that kind of respect. And my mom thought that, I deserve something better. I deserve something which is like much more than just being a fitness trainer. And this is coming from a perspective of a person who has owned gym and who has managed a group of trainers. So she knew what the Indian trainers and what kind of uh, lifestyle they had and stuff like that.
So your
And she didn't
mother,
want
so just to add, your mother and father both were into fitness industry right from the very beginning.
right from the very beginning. This is
Fantastic.
what I'm doing. This is what my family does.
Okay.
Still does. So then she wanted me to do something different. So, and like any other person who's graduating or who's coming out of 10th standard in 2007, I wanted to do engineering because
Mhm.
uh, arts was, I don't know, like Bombay may it was in fashion to do arts,
Mhm.
at least in the northern suburbs. I wasn't good enough for science. uh, Academically, and engineering was something which I knew that, okay, you know what, it's something that I can relate to, and I would like to
Hmm.
call myself an engineer. That is it. I think, yeah, I would like to call myself an engineer, and that's why I wanted to do engineering.
Hmm.
So I did my diploma. I didn't realize what I'm getting into, but I got into electronics and pure electronics.
All right.
Worst decision of my life.
So I am an, just to add, I'm an electronics engineer, by the way, and I generally tell people that I'm an engineer by choice. So I was really good at both electronics and computers. So I can understand the pain.
Like how we looked at a computer and all those people were like, oh, your life is so much sorted. And, yeah. And electronics was like just after civil and mechanical.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, like so I what means I wanted to do civil. I couldn't do civil because the college which I was a part of didn't have
Mhm.
civil as this thing. So
Oh.
I was in Thakur Polytechnic, which was very close to my house. Again, a very smart decision from my mom, because my beta shouldn't travel a lot, and that's why I just uh, put him in a college that's very close to him, which is amazing. Then after that, I did electronics, which was decent. 3 years of diploma in electronics made me realize that, okay, this requires a lot of effort. After that, the thing with diploma after degree after diploma is the problem that you don't get seats. There's
Hmm.
only very, very, very small population or a small number of seats which is reserved for diploma students in degree. And uh, means I only had like 60 people to fight with, so for one seat, and I couldn't. So I got into this college called as LR Tiwari College of Engineering, where all my friends were there from the same diploma college. So I had a very good, very fun engineering time. But when I was doing that, I realized that I had too much for fun, and by the third year, I got a drop. And at that time I was like around 21. and all my friends just moved away from me. And in that 1 year, I realized that I had to do something. So I started working out a lot more. I started sitting at my father's gym, managing it and doing whatever I could. And at the same time, as I said, I did around 4 certifications. So I did my certifications of fitness and stuff like that during that time. So, and after engineering finished, I realized that this is something which I cannot do
Mm-hmm.
out of your hatred towards this, because frankly a lot of people have good experiences, and people who have had good experiences rave about it and are still are doing amazing job at it. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I never really had great experiences in engineering, so I despised it. So I thought that I should do MBA like any other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering doesn't want to do engineering, but I, of course, as you can understand by now, me as a student wasn't the best student right there. So I kind of delayed my MBA examination form filling. So I had a year. I had a year between my MBA exams and when my engineering got over. So I decided to do some kind of job. And the job which I did was a marketing stint, and which was in a recruitment firm. And this recruitment firm used to hire blue collar people for Saudi and all these Middle Eastern countries. And that means, and that particular this thing, I learned a lot. I did that gig for 10 months, and I realized that this is something which I don't do, means which I don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
because while I was doing this gig, I was also going back home and I was coaching people, and I was making the same amount of money in that 1 hour of time where I was working out, and I was making the same amount of money on this 10-hour job where I wasn't happy. So I decided, you know what, let me just pursue this full time. But at the same time, getting into fitness full time wasn't the easiest option, because
Right.
it's a difficult job, and you won't have people coming to you just because you look good. You need
Mm.
to make a name for yourself,
Absolutely.
like that. So I started doing marketing for my father's business, which is the quality health equipment that you might have seen,
Mm.
and I did that till the time I realized that, you know what, that is going to go anyway, because there was a good momentum with that business. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, the number of clients in Nike was happening at this time, so I focused my entire uh, concentration on fitness itself. And since then, I think from 23 to now, I'm 28 now, I've been in coaching full time, and it's been one hell of a ride, man. So that's how it's going.
So it's a very interesting journey that you have had. So from and let me again go a little deeper into it and help me understand more from the family side now. So a family which is into fitness thinks fitness is not a great industry. Uh, if I may use the word, pushes the son to go into engineering, and then the son later on realizes that, hey, I am not meant to do this. Let me go back to the roots, go back to the fitness industry, gets a base platform at the father's gym, starts coaching people, realizes the importance of making money early, takes a very smart decision that if I can just work out and do work for 1 hour a day, and I'll be making equal money what I'll be doing. What was the family mindset like? What was the relationship with mom then? What did you face any resistance from the family, or were you smart enough by then to kind of convince your parents? What was that relation with parents like? What was the journey? Because the reason I'm also asking this question, I want to understand it little deeper level, is that a lot of times when I see people who want to get into unconventional career, something which is not like a engineering or a MBA or a banking job or a something conventional, like there's a huge resistance that's come from the parents side because of the uncertainty issues, right? But in your case, your family was already into the fitness business, and it's a very interesting aspect to understand that they were into fitness, yet they wanted you to get into a conventional career because they were unsure, and then the industry dynamics over the period changed. So what was that relation with the family like? Were you able to convince, not convince? Because it's a very interesting I think point to kind of understand from the family and your relation point of view.
Yeah. See, the thing with my family was, I think our dinner table conversations weren't about like making. Okay, let me just put it this way. Like, from whatever I've learned so far, I've realized
Mm-hmm.
that uh, the way that you end up growing, see, if I'm coming from a middle class family, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming from a family whose uh, main goal is to just make enough money so that they can actually make do, and who've
Hmm.
started from the bottom to the point that they have like just reached to a point that they can sustain themselves, and give them basic amenities and just some amount of luxury, if or whatever it is. So the dinner table conversation aren't about like how to make more money. The dinner table conversation is like how to make sure that uh, we are just making do, or like just it's not about growing, it's always about stabilizing. Am I making sense? Okay, so it's all about stability.
Elaborate a bit, please.
Okay. So let me put it this way. So my parents always saw business as a mode of making do and having a stability, or they wanted their business to be stable.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to find that stability, they never thought of growing.
Hmm.
Yeah. And this is very normal. Honestly, this is very normal. Um, the thing with stability is, or the thing, yeah, the only ironical thing with stability is, unless and until you're not growing, you're never stable. Because if you are
Hmm.
want stable, you always keep on degrading. Okay, so that is one thing which I've learned over the period of time. My parents at that time, they always sought stability, and they was always looking forward for stability.
Hmm.
And for them, there was always about like, you know what, if I have worked so hard to find this stability, I don't want my son to be working so hard. In fact, I want my son to do something which is much more easier, or who's going to means which is who's he's going to find stability in a much more easier manner. For example, a job where he
Hmm.
would go at a place at 8 o'clock in the morning and come back at 5 o'clock in the evening, and then his life would be set.
Hmm.
Okay, that is the main perception of what my parents had. And this was the same perception till the time that I did my marketing stint. And even then, my mom was very adamant that, you know what, you should be doing the job, because it's something that means that is how the world works. That is
Hmm.
how everybody does it. That is how it should be. And you do it for a year more,
Hmm.
and then you give your MBA exam, and then your CTC would be high enough, and
Hmm.
so on. Uh, so so this is what I came from. This is what means my mother's perception was. But
Hmm.
luckily, I think I was around with a group of friends who were very dynamic in nature and who never settled for anything which is like lesser than what they wanted to have for themselves.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and because I grew up with these guys, I did my diploma with these guys, I did my engineering with these guys. I always knew that, you know what, if I'm not happy with something, I'm not going to do it. So
Hmm.
at that particular phase of my life, when I was just about leaving my job, I used to just cry out of helplessness because I didn't want to hurt my mom. And I, at the same time, I never really had a strong enough proof that I'm going to be good enough in the next couple of years, because I didn't have, means I didn't know what I wanted to do in future. But eventually, I kind of gave myself a leeway and I started waking up early, all those little
Hmm.
things. And
Hmm.
I started coaching a bunch of uncles in my gym, in my building. So my mom knew that, okay, if a guy who's just left his job is waking up early, that means he means business.
Hmm.
And then to
Hmm.
go work out and used to go train, meet people, take up personal training clients, do a lot of
Hmm.
freelancing job, and go back and then train my friends and then train these clients which I had, and somehow not ask money from them.
Okay.
So basically, be self-sustaining at that point. And
Hmm.
luckily, when this was happening, and this has happened a lot. Thank
Hmm.
Lord for this. Uh, if I have worked for myself a bit, the universe has given me tenfolds of it. So I was
Fantastic.
doing like, if I've and touch wood, and I did this for like a couple of months. In fact, 3 or 4 months, and fourth month itself, Nike called, and and the process of me being called by Nike to me becoming a Nike trainer was 7 month long. But the
Okay.
fact I was being noticed by a brand which is the biggest brand in the world was strong enough for me to just ask my mom to that relax. Whatever means in whichever direction I'm going, I'm kind of doing right. Or I'm kind of okay. And
Hmm.
then once Nike started and once I became a Nike certified trainer,
Hmm.
I think my mother's perception changed completely, and because now I have a backing of such a big, massive corporation, I
Hmm.
think at that time she kind of realized that, you know what, he will be okay.
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
so it was never about the money. I wasn't making money at that time, honestly. I wasn't making good amount of
Hmm.
money at that time. It was only
Hmm.
about the kind of brands I was associated with and the kind of habits that I was
Hmm.
inculcating in myself. And if those were in line, my mom knew that, you know what, I think he might be doing what he was means he might be doing something right. So that was, did it answer your question? I'm sorry, I kind of went.
Yes, no, definitely. I think it's very interesting because the more you're trying to deconstruct it, it's giving me much more perspective, and I
Yeah.
want to really go deeper, more and more into this aspect, because I think it's a very interesting conversation we're having. So I want to, Kunal, I have two very very important questions to ask you from the family point of view. I want to go really deeper into it because it's a very interesting family setup that you have, if I may say it that way, right? Who has been a bigger influencer and a bigger decision maker in your life, whether it was it your father or was it your mother?
No, it was always my mother. My
Always your
father,
mother.
yeah,
Okay.
who, my father was somebody who always had that perception that I would want him to do what he wants to do,
Okay.
unless and
Okay.
um, but he never really gave in much of a thought, or never
Okay.
really went too much uh, deeper. He just made sure that my habits weren't very bad, as simple
so
as that.
so
Like,
father was basically somebody who would let you do what you want to do, but your mother would kind of want to kind of make sure that things are falling in place from the
protective about it.
protective. Yeah, exactly, that's the great word. Now I want to kind of decode this mother aspect and go a little more deeper, because generally relation of Indian kids with their moms, right, uh, especially from the career and uncertainty point of view, they're very emotional, and in the sense that uh, they're not logical. Indian mothers are generally emotional, right? Fathers are typically logical. You can sit with them across the table and tell them कि पापा ऐसा है, and they would understand the logic कि ठीक है यार, कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेगा. And they're also little chilled out until unless you have a very good reputation with your father, and he is not one of those bad fathers typically shown in Indian movies. I think the Indian fathers are much more logical, but Indian
Yeah,
mothers, on the other hand, were very emotional. Typical that you see in all Rima Lagu movies, if I may say that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And that's the case with every Indian mom. So uh, how much of this in your case specifically was or how difficult was it to convince your mom post Nike and even after pre Nike and post Nike, and then how much time did it take, and what's the mindset now? I also want to understand, because a lot of times despite the fact you have proved yourself to the world, Indian moms still have that set mindset about, and they come from a hardcore social baggage. There's this joke I was reading somewhere, that Sundar Pichai became the CEO of Google, and somebody asked their mom, so sorry, the mom asked Sundar, said to Sundar that hey, ये सब तो ठीक है, but सरकारी नौकरी कब करेगा ये बता.
Same.
So
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ठीक है.
So I still get asked a lot about like, even in jokes, like even my mom jokes like, try कर government में घुसने को, try
Hmm.
कर government की नौकरी करने को, try कर to tie up with some schools and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I mean, see, one thing I know for certain, and this is like, I can safely say that my parents have struggled 1,000 times more than I
Absolutely.
ever have. Like
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
start from nothing, and and I think fear is something, and I think that's the case with everybody, more or less. Means I can't. It's not a blanket statement, but more or less the people that I end up meeting, even their parents have struggled that much. And if I
Absolutely.
if I've seen a pattern in this one is like, the more you struggle, the fear that you have will make you choose only decisions which are monetarily very satisfying, or which are going to be monetarily very safe.
Hmm.
Whole point of I want to do what I love, I want to do this, and I want to do that. For them, I think they can't relate to it because at that time they never had that kind of opportunities when it comes to like social media.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and to some extent, I also feel that uh, it's also the parent uh, mindset that yeah, end में तो मेरा ही बेटा है. I know
Hmm.
him. I
Hmm.
know. Okay, so क्या कितना क्या करेगा, and so on and so forth, and this is completely understandable. But
Hmm.
at the same time, one thing I've realized that pre Nike and post Nike, one thing that has made my mom a bit more comfortable, and I think it will make anybody's family a bit more comfortable, when I started giving in my share of whatever expenditure would be there to my household. and,
Hmm.
and when that started coming in, for example, okay, I'm staying at your place and I stay with my parents. I'm staying at your place, this is what I would pay if I was staying outside, and this is I'm going to take care of the light bill and stuff like that, and if there's something else, you can always do that, and that is the transactional basis which is happening. So
Hmm.
when that started happening, when my mom knew that okay, the income source that I am getting is stable enough to the point that I can actually give her a stable share of it, she
Right.
became kind of uh, understanding, a bit more understanding.
Hmm.
And since then, I think it has become a much more streamlined process.
Okay.
But as much as I wouldn't like to say it, but money does play a very pivotal role in people's perception, in parents'
Hmm.
perception, in understanding that oh, okay, now अभी मेरा बेटा बड़ा हो गया, अभी ये हो
Hmm.
गया. So
Hmm.
even if I was 28 and even if I had gotten Nike right now, and if I wasn't making that kind of money, my mom
Hmm.
still would have been concerned, and my mom still would have been asking me to
Hmm.
go into a government job or stuff like that, because it
Hmm.
would have been much more stable. But I also think that I got lucky because the opportunities which I grabbed
Hmm.
uh, was at a time where the industry was just booming,
Hmm.
and I could maximize it as much as possible. I couldn't maximize all the opportunities I got. I failed a lot of times, but
Hmm.
whatever it was, I kind of did my jam, and now I'm at a stabler position. The thing with business is it's never stable, man. Like there's always going to be like 1,000 Kunal waiting behind me, and
Right.
if I just like take a breather, there's going to be like I'm going to go behind by say a 500 or something.
Hmm.
So that is happening. But yeah, my mom's perception right now is much more open, and if
Okay.
I want to start a different business, she won't stop me from doing that.
All right.
So that's a nice paradigm shift from doing the job which I was doing to the
And
point
how
where my
much
mom,
time did it take in general? कितना time लगा इस पूरे duration में? How
5
many
years,
years? 5 years,
5 years.
right? Okay.
5 years. Also,
So,
Dilnath, I started coaching people for 1,500 no 1,300 rupees for
mhm,
every day of coaching, personal
mhm.
training, uh, and now I
A month?
charge a month,
A month. 1,500 a month.
a
Okay.
month for everyday
Okay.
coaching.
Okay.
Uh, and now it's like it's around 4 times of that for an hour. So
Wow.
yeah, so the growth that I've had is and that is in the industry standards. Like all my Nike
Absolutely.
buddies are talking a lot more, but so that is the growth that the industry gives you if you really work hard for it. But again, it's very difficult.
So I think to conclude this particular part, I think we touch base upon a lot of very interesting things about your journey a bit, maybe transformation, relation with family, money. I think I can at least summarize it by saying that it was not just luck, as you say, but it's more like opportunity meets preparation that we talk about the success thing. You were
Yeah,
ready and it just came across and you grabbed it. I think that's very important. A lot of times people think that we'll wait for the right opportunity to come, and when the opportunity comes, they're not prepared. They are not hustling, or they're not having some sort of a traction happening, or they haven't proved themselves. I think you're a great example of what we call as opportunity meeting a preparation, and that is what led to where you are right now. Now I want to go and talk about very different aspect of the entire business or journey, is what I said in your introduction as well, the unlock story, right? So all those who are watching, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about the unlock by the government of India and not the lockdown. I'm talking about the unlock that Kunal runs. So if I may just add and give a quick summary, Unlock is basically online community that Kunal runs. It's a closed community on Instagram that he runs, where he coaches people digitally around fitness. And now, Kunal, I want you to kind of talk in depth about Unlock, the idea, how you conceptualize it, what's happening with Unlock right now, what season or what edition you are at, and what's the future like. Take us through that now.
So, first of all, Unlock was named before Unlock. India
Yes,
government started calling Unlock,
I
which is
I
like,
know that. Yes, that's very
yeah.
important for people to add. Yes, absolutely.
So see, when the lockdown started, it was like, if if somebody has had a good observation skills, uh, that person would have known that, you know what, this is going to be there for a long period of time. It wasn't supposed to be there for like 21 days at all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like, and I knew it straight from the bat, because I am a fanatic of weird stories and like historical events, which has had massive cultural impact on people. And one of the major such event was the 1919 and 1920 pandemic, the Spanish flu one. And I knew that this was going to happen. And if this is being called as a pandemic, the kind of effect that it's going to have on the economy is going to be massive. But I didn't know it's going to be this big. So I knew that whatever is going to happen is going to be there for like 2 or 3 months. And 2 or 3 months, in my perspective, as I said, is there's going to be like 1,000 Kunal behind me, who are going to be working thrice as hard as me, and who are going to be much more hungrier than me, in order to be where I am. And I wanted to make sure that, you know what, I don't lose this, and I make sure that I am relevant no matter what happens. And in order to make sure I'm relevant, I started with around 15,000 or 16,000 followers. Uh, and I wanted to increase my follower count while giving them value. So I started doing live sessions. Now, that is the only thing which I could do, right? Because live sessions is, also, this was not my idea of doing live sessions. I saw people doing live sessions, and I was the first one, and it means probably one of the first people in India to do the live sessions. Uh, so I started doing the live sessions wherein I asked people to come and join me for a workout, and we started working out. And then I realized that, okay, this is good, but in order to make sure that I'm increasing the number of people I am coaching, or the number of followers that I have, I want to have more influential people. And so I started calling in celebrities who have trained before.
Mhm.
So I started working out with them. And I did this every single day, man. I did this every single day for 2 months, to the point that I was doing it where my body was like broken down. But I knew that people were waiting for these sessions, and they had made it a part of it, because at that time mental issues and mental health issues were also being prominent, right? It was like a depressing time for people. And I knew that working out was something which is really going to help a lot of people mentally, also physically, but mentally a lot more. So that also gave me a drive to push myself a lot harder. And then eventually I realized that, you know what, uh, 2 months, 2.5 months of doing this is something that I don't see myself doing it for a longer period of time. And I want to kind of start monetizing it in a certain way or possible. And the best way to monetize it was not to have them convert into Zoom sessions, because I was focusing on a mass audience. I was focusing on people which are like 150, 200.
Right.
Um, in order to convert these kind of crowd for Zoom sessions, it would be very difficult, because I won't be giving them one-to-one, uh, uh, say, services, and I can't charge them, say, that amount of money also.
Right.
So I thought that, you know what, if I have this number of ardent followers on Instagram, I would give them a lot more services than myself. So I started giving them animal flow. I thought of giving them Pilates. I thought of giving them mobility flexibility, and I thought of giving them yoga also on one page itself. And that page would be called as unlock. And in order to access that page, all you want to do is you just have to like pay me and get that entry fee, and then you can access of these things. You're doing the same live sessions but on Instagram. And at that time it was only supposed to be for 24 hours. If you remember, live sessions could only be saved for 24 hours. So I used to sell them like that. But the day that unlock started and the day the entries shut, IGTV conversion started. And and since then we've been selling it as, now you can always, even if you end up missing it, you can always get it from your IGTV and stuff like that. So yeah, we did that. The first unlock version had around 55 members. The second had around 80. Third one had 121, and this one had around 118.
Wow.
So yeah,
You also
so
you
we
almost doubled the numbers in almost like 4 seasons, right?
yeah.
And
So and
how big is one season or
sorry,
one series? How big is one season or one series?
4 weeks, 4 weeks.
Weeks. Okay.
But
Okay.
this would have been a lot more in this season. But I just completed a 30-day challenge with this company called as Fraternity,
Yeah.
wherein I was coaching 350 people. So,
Hmm.
so yeah. So my scale of coaching people from one person on one-on-one went to coaching 400 plus people per day. So
Yeah.
that is what happened in
So
this
we'll we
entire.
we we'll also explore that a bit because I've been, as I said, I've been following you from a long time. We have been friends, and I see you've been running very interesting challenges, whether it is like a 45-day challenge to this 30-day challenge, and I would want you to speak a bit on that as well. So Kunal, I want to also, but before I jump onto that part of the conversation, I want to also understand one thing. So my introduction to you, I don't know how I landed on Instagram, and then I started following you, and then we started chatting. But my first video that I consciously remember watching was you were worried in a black t-shirt sitting in a balcony, and you're talking about that, hey, lockdown has happened and gyms have been closed, and it's a great massive hit on the fitness industry, and how will the people who are not young and tech savvy, what will they do? To a complete shift, the backstage we're talking that you were saying that, hey, I don't want to get into the physical business anymore. I'm absolutely fine running a digital fitness business. uh, I want to understand the mind shift and the mind change of that Kunal like 5 months back or 6 months back to this Kunal now. And also, a bit on the entrepreneurial side, because I can see you more transforming into an entrepreneur than just a fitness trainer. So take us
Yeah.
through that mind shift, take us through that change in the perspective about things.
That it was so. As I said, my father owned a couple of gyms, and I knew that the trainers over there. See, the thing with the training industry right now is, we the people who are the floor trainers and the personal trainers aren't really extremely educated. Okay. And uh, and we're talking about floor trainers generally. Again, it's not a blanket statement. I'm sure that a lot of people are much more educated than I am, and the kind of knowledge that they have is like way surpassing that I have. But majority of the people that we are talking about, they lived and they survived on personal training clients for 5,000, 6,000 rupees, and they had around 2 or 3 clients, and they used to make do, and they used to take that salary, who go home and be happy about it. When the brick and mortar business kind of shut down because of the lockdown, these guys basically stopped functioning. They didn't really have any source of income, and I knew it firsthand because this was happening in my company itself, to the point
Hmm.
that even we couldn't support them because we were also losing out on rent. So the
Hmm.
whole video which I made was to make sure that if you if you as a person who wants to get fit, and if you always had excuses, this is the best time to call your personal trainer from your gym and reach up to him and just WhatsApp call him and get training from him for a dirt cheap rate, like a throwaway
Hmm.
price. Because, and not only because it's great for you, but also because it's going to help somebody put food on a table. And that is why the entire video was. Then And of course, I am means I can say I am in the top 2% of the population who has good amount of exposure in terms of people, that people are going to watch this. We are having this conversation, like you having conversation with a trainer is also a massive thing, right? uh, so I am one of the very few exposed one out there, but the entire training industry is like millions. So
Hmm.
these guys are not tech savvy, or nor do these guys have the kind of exposure that I have. And the Instagram algorithm that is going on right now is not going to help them either. Okay, so that's why the entire conversation was there. Now, speaking to that, I tried to push as much as possible, but then my personally myself, I realized that uh, when I was working, uh, Jan, for example, uh, I stay in the northern suburbs of Bombay, which is like Kandivali, near the national park. My crowd is in Juhu and Bandra. So I train people in Juhu and I train people in Bandra. My first class in the morning is at 6:30 in the morning. Then I have a class at 10:30. It gets done by 12. Then I have to go back home.
Hmm.
So from Kandivali to Juhu, it's an hour long drive. From Juhu to Kandivali back at that time is 1 hour and a half. Then I take a train in the evening because I have to go to Bandra. That
Hmm.
is a 55 to 1 hour minute ride in the train, then coming back again for 1 hour, and then coming back again. And this time, plus I'm also paying rent and I'm also doing everything possible. So I'm losing out on energy, I'm losing out on time, I'm losing out on rent money, and I'm doing everything. And then I realized that, you know what, and plus also I'm focusing on a very hyper local group of people.
Hmm.
People from Khar aren't going to come to Bandra, nor are people
Right.
going from, even from Andheri East are not going to come to Juhu, right?
Hmm.
Because it's convenience that is very important. The
Hmm.
one thing which I've realized in this entire thing is like what online fitness is doing to you, and which is always going to happen. I didn't know that it's going to happen that radically. Which
Hmm.
all it was always going to happen, which was the convenience factor is going to come into play. And that's why all these businesses like Cult and even other apps are doing so well, because if you get fitness and if you get your desired coaching at your fingertips, why would you want to go to the gym? So yeah, and that's what I did. I basically shifted my entire focus on the online part of it, and I've been giving a lot of energy towards it and trying to grow it as much as possible.
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
I think it's coming not from a very heartfelt decision, because I love meeting people. I love coaching them physically. I love having that kind of connection. And but at the same time, I just realized that business wise, it really makes no sense to actually do it. And that's why the entire online shift.
So I think uh, it's very important to understand and also decode what you just said, because uh, one, of course, lockdown, and I'm saying again this from a very privileged lens, and considering the 2% thing that you and I belong to the upper elite crowd, if I may use that word. Of course, we have, because of the privileges and the luxury we have, considering still 20-30% of the population doesn't have food to eat in the country, right? So I think this digital transformation and even fitness, which was so physical and in person, is now because can happen on digital. I think if you're not still able to build a business, I think it's ultimately the excuse that you have. I think at least that's my belief, right? Because when you say that I want to now go completely digital because of the exposure and the kind of amount I can reach out to people, I think it's a great learning from this entire thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
see, like, I think it's the first mover's advantage also, right?
Mm,
I mean,
mm,
right now, if somebody starts doing whatever that person would be doing on the online platform or stuff like that, that person would have like extreme levels of difficulty to start over, because you
mm.
have to build a cloud. And the thing with fitness, it's any kind of service industry where you're giving out services online, is the
Right.
kind of relationship and the bond that you end up making.
Mm.
have been making bonds and relationships in the last 8 months now. And I've been making relationships with people where they were in need of those relationship. Uh, and I'm not saying it I did from a very monetary perspective. I did it because I wanted to be a part of it because I needed that myself.
Hmm.
And that was a genuine interaction which I had with people. And because of that, uh, and because they knew what kind of services I also have to offer, the kind of conversion rate I had was very high. But
Hmm.
for now, even if we are talking about any influencers or whoever who wants to come into this entire platform, that person is going to find it a bit more difficult, is because uh, as I said, like any kind of, like for example, Nike also. The reason why people buy Nike is not because they want to make a statement of like Nike. Because they resonate with the fact that okay, Nike stands for something. It
Right.
stands for sport. It is the personification of sport in some ways or the other. And so my trust is only about making sure that my brand or the brand Kunal Rajput, whatever it is, it's a personification of the kind of relationship that I have with them.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay, all
are you
good?
there? Yeah, 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 absolutely. I think there was some lag which was there. So I just want to now, talk on
No problem.
last two parts of the conversation before we jump on to taking audience's question, and then have a small rapid fire as well for you. Uh, so now considering that there's so much of competition, the ease of access is there because of the digital thing, and then Instagram is overcrowded with influencers and fitness, and it's a competitive space to be in. Like I said, that even if you delay by a day, you slip like what 500 to 1000 positions, right? What are your tips or advice, being a Nike coach, a celebrity trainer, a fitness influencer yourself, and maybe now an entrepreneur? What is your advice and suggestions to the new guys who are trying to get into the fitness business, fitness game? What's your advice to them? What are the 3 to 5 or 7 things they need to kind of keep in mind, take care of before entering into the business, and any other things that you want to speak on?
Okay. Okay. So the first and foremost thing, a lot of people think, and this is one thing which I've observed a lot, that they see this as an option that they can venture into as a side business, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the same time, unless and until you don't have massive amounts of passion for this particular uh, service industry, you won't be able to make it big. The reason why I'm saying is because if I'm speaking to you right now, uh, and if I'm going to coach you, you and me are going to be uh, in a very vulnerable situation where you're going to be physically tired, mentally exhausted, and I'm going to speak to you in that phase, which is a very vulnerable phase. You won't be Dilnawaz, who is an entrepreneur, who is actually this amazing podcast host. You'll be just your body and you'll be just your mind. And at that time, to build relationship, you can't think about, oh, I am with this person just to make a certain amount of money for an hour. I have
Hmm.
to actively be a part of this. And I
Right.
have to actively be a part of this throughout the entire commitment which I have had. In order to do that, it's you really have to love what you do. So that is
Hmm.
one thing, which is, it might sound very cliched, but
Hmm.
if you're not into it, you will lose clients just like that. You won't have the retainability of the people. You will get people, but you won't have the retainability of it. Second thing I think, which is very important in this business, is like, uh, keep thinking 5 6 months ahead, and think of yourself as a businessman rather than a trainer or a person who's just providing a service, because you are replaceable, and you are always replaceable with somebody who is going to be more exposed than you are.
Hmm.
So you always have to think of, and me and Shweta, my fellow Nike coach and my very good friend, was speaking about, like, you always need to have that kind of entrepreneurial stick to make sure that you kind of grow your business
Hmm.
tenfold, or your clientele tenfolds, by every 3 months or every 4 months, or so on and so forth. If you don't focus on that, you will fade away, just because there are people who are much more exposed, and like odds are always against you in terms of
Right.
that. And then I
Absolutely.
think the last, yeah, I think the last one would be, uh, yeah, I think the last one would be making sure that you work on your mental health more than your physical one. Because, see, this is one thing which I haven't really spoken about, but physically, I am at my weakest right now. The more I climb the stairs of this success ladder, which I have,
Mm-hmm.
I won't count myself as a successful person. But if the more I get closer towards success in my eyes, the weaker I get physically. And uh, it's not because I'm not working on myself. It's because I'm working so hard that I don't
Mm-hmm.
get time for myself. And to the point I end up stretching myself a lot more, and I kind of stretch myself too thin. And that is something that one should really think about. The thing with money is something which I've observed, that it overwhelms you very quickly.
Hmm.
uh, and you kind of lose the plot, and you start getting in, and you start chasing in and grabbing every single opportunity there is outside. And in order to not do that, you have to start saying no as much as possible.
Right.
Because as I said, dude, like I have come from a family which has struggled a lot. So for me, it's always about हाँ कर लेंगे, हाँ कर लूंगा, हाँ हो जाएगा, हाँ ये हो जाएगा. To the point that I have stretched myself to so thin that I have to take breaks, where I know that those breaks aren't something that I can afford. So
Hmm.
the third point again is, don't stretch yourself out too thin, and make sure that you listen to your body,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of have a cadence where you can control, or don't go too fast. Am I
Hmm.
making sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, Kunal, I also want to understand. Uh, so, if somebody wants to venture into the fitness industry, let us say, and I think what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, there, the entry point is try to be a trainer or coach somebody, and I've seen a couple of people getting into the fitness business or fitness industry from this point, that I will train somebody and then eventually I'll grow on my client base. So, what's your advice? How can you grab the lowest hanging fruit? And also I'm talking from the ethical point of view, because a lot of times when you're new, and you don't have, let us say, certification, it's difficult to convince people that what you're doing is legitimate and you will be doing good to them, because we live in a society where people are more scared than more trusting the people like that. So what's your take? How can young guys, young fitness enthusiasts trying to venture into the fitness business grab the lowest hanging fruit, and how can they create trust among the clients, among the people they want to go after?
Yeah. So, like, so in startups, you always have friends, families, and fools who
Hmm.
end up.
I'm so enjoying the entrepreneurial side of you today. I'm sure I would love to talk to you once again after 4 months, where I will then not talking to be the Kunal who's a fitness trainer, but a proper full-time entrepreneur, and maybe the podcast host by then, and I'll touch base on that as well. I'm so loving the way you're using technology, and you're using business terms, and now the friends, fools, and family concept. I'm so enjoying the conversation. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry to barge in. Yeah.
I think see, so that is always the first step. But at the same time, you should have a proof of concept, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
in this particular scenario, the proof of concept is yourself.
Hmm.
If you really don't have a aspiring physique, see, the thing is, dude, you have seen, if you like a fitness model ka picture, one fitness model ka picture, you'll be bombarded with like a million fitness models ke pictures, right? So your mind's perception of like what's great and what's good is
Hmm.
very soft. Okay.
Hmm.
So you won't take anybody seriously till the time that they fit into that particular bracket of people.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So unless and until I am not at that level as a
Hmm.
coach, or as a
Hmm.
person, or as a trainer, who is even decently good looking, or even decently at a place where you want to be, I won't be able to grab your attention. That is one thing. Second thing, I guess, would be focusing on having, uh, I can say this as the friends, families, and fools are very important in terms of uh, making you learn the craft and making uh, who can actually believe you without uh, like asking you too many questions and letting you do your work. And then you can set them as an example and use that example and then move on. So um, the way that I started was I started coaching my friends. My The reason I started coaching my friends, people around the gym started noticing that, and they wanted to come and coach with me or be coached by me, and so on and so forth. And then you can actually keep growing and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
while you're doing that, you always work simultaneously on your social media skills also,
Hmm.
because trust me, like, this is, of course, this is the offline part of it, but unless and until your social media game is not strong, it's not going to work well. And social media is the way to go about it. The Gone are those times where you are going to be a super successful coach or a trainer or an entrepreneur unless and until you are not big on social media. So that is, if it needs to happen on Instagram to make sure it's legit, which is
Fantastic.
weird. The
Fantastic.
world that we're living in.
So Kunal, on that note, I'll wrap this particular session for today. I'll quickly move on to the rapid fire, and also we will pick up the couple of questions from the audience's side. Guys, all those who are watching us live, I would request you to like the video, please, and also subscribe the channel if you're here for the first time. Also, can you show some love to Kunal? Can you drop Kunal OP in chat? And also keep on asking questions. I will be picking up your questions in next 5 to 7 minutes once I'm done with the rapid fire. But before I jump there, Kunal, I think it was, to be honest, it was a fantastic conversation. I think I was able to kind of talk at a very different level with you today. It was a very different layer we spoke about. Right from entrepreneurship to social media to importance of certification to working on yourself to bit about mental and physical fitness and more on the family side, money. I think we explored a lot, and I'm sure and I can if people are going to watch it later on, I can for sure tell them 6 months down the line when I'm going to speak you once again, and I would love to get you on my podcast once again. I'm sure it will be a different Kunal because I've seen you growing every day, and it's a fantastic it's such a good energy and vibe that I get from you, even
And
offline when I'm watching you and when I'm now talking to you. So uh, great job at all these things, and I think when people are going to listen to this conversation later on as well, I think it's one of the best and the most interesting podcasts I have recorded till now, because we touch base upon so many different aspects. And yeah, it's difficult to cover everything in 1 hour, so I'm looking
yeah,
forward for another conversation. So moving on to the rapid fire, light-hearted questions, one line, maybe one word, super light. And guys, drop in your questions in the chat, and also Kunal OP in the chat, please. Okay, so first, after doing so many things, social media, entrepreneurship, this, that, and all. Of course, I know you're coming with the podcast. I want you to talk a bit on that as well. What is the next thing in the pipeline now?
next thing in the pipeline would be, um, okay. So I've been told I've been doing a lot of things, but I think the next thing in the line is two things: the podcast which is happening, and second, I'm
Hmm.
trying to build an app,
Okay.
uh, and basically trying to put in a lot of content over there so that let's see how that goes, because uh, I don't know, man. Like, it's I never thought of myself doing an app thing, but
Hmm.
I think that is the way to go about it, because the next step would be going completely online.
Fantastic.
I don't see how I can unlock as much,
Hmm.
because of course it's going to be problematic when it comes to the algorithm part of it.
Hmm.
And of course, my follower counts are increasing, but I don't have that kind of physical strength to go live every single day like I used to go back again. So
Hmm.
I'll try to go with the app thing and see how that works. And and again, I'm launching another ebook which is going to be only about workouts. So that.
Okay. Also, maybe once the session ends, guys, I have tagged Kunal and put his Instagram handle in the link. Of course, you have much bigger following than me, but all those who are not following, go and follow Kunal there. And later on, once the conversation ends, I will also link his ebook in the description. So I'll pin the comment. Later on, you can comment, have a look at that. Didn't know that we were going to talk about the ebook as well. But my best wishes to you for that, and I'm sure once the app goes live, we'll
Thank you.
talk again. Also, what's your favorite form of workout? I've seen that you are a lot into kettlebell training, if that's the right word for that equipment. If I'm not, I'm the noob there. But what's your favorite form of workout, and elaborate that a bit.
Okay, I can tell you what I hate the most. I hate body weight training the most because I've been
Okay.
doing it in the last 8 months now. Like I am tired of it, man. I can't do burpees anymore. But I think I love right now. I've always had undulating phases. Right now, I love just doing normal like strength hypertrophy work, which is like bicep curls and tricep extensions,
Mhm.
and like just pumping yourself, just looking in the mirror and just being happy about my body, which is like very, it induces vanity, but I'm super happy with it. So in this phase of current me, I'm super happy with that workouts.
Okay. So, also, what is the entry level workout for somebody who's not into workouts and now maybe gets inspired after watching this, and maybe also gets inspired after watching your Instagram? What's the entry level workout for those people?
So the same workout which I spoke about right now,
Hmm.
something like strength based, which involves very light equipments, for example, two dumbbells or like a bench, and just focus on isolating those group of muscles. Now when speaking about isolating group of muscles, like focusing on one group of muscles right now and working on hypertrophy, it's like 8 to 12 reps for 3 to 4 sets and then moving on. So I think this workout would give you aesthetically a very pleasing physique. At the
Hmm.
same time, will also keep your muscles like good form, shape, and health. And this time, I think it's acquired. If not, I think uh, see there are like different workout options that I can give you, but it would be very long. It won't be rapid fire then. But I
Okay.
think this is the best one.
Yeah.
Hypertrophy workouts.
So do you what's your diet plan like, and what's your favorite cheat meal?
Okay. So my current favorite cheat meal would be um getting in. I don't know if you have Carter Blues in this thing in Jaipur, but there's
Hmm.
something that's called as lamb mandi rice. So it's lamb
Okay.
with
Uh-huh.
roasted rice, nothing else. That's it.
Okay.
Like mm,
Okay.
very beautiful, very nicely cooked. But yeah, that uh, Indian Mughlai, super cool. And
Okay.
what's my favorite? That is it, right? My favorite cheat meal.
Uh-huh. And also, what's your diet plan like? Because to maintain six
Oh,
packs, what
sorry.
is the diet plan? So maybe you can bust the myth, or you can tell people what's your diet plan like. I just want to kind of go a little deeper there.
So I went to my right now what I'm doing is I'm having two breakfasts in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So one is a smoothie of like two bananas, a protein shake, peanut butter, water, and some creatine. Then after that, I have my workout. Then I have another breakfast, which is basically uh, four egg omelette with just two slices of bread. Then I have my lunch, whatever my mom makes. She makes amazing food. Then I have a snack, which is like chocos and milk and a cappuccino.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my dinner, which is going to be mostly like chicken breast and like greens or brown rice. That's it.
All right, all right. And so it is like a regular diet that you follow basically, and nothing out of the world, nothing rocket science.
Yeah, if you continue this, or if you start feeling, means if you start eating such clean food, I would say
Mm-hmm.
comparatively clean food, you start seeing crazy changes in your body and also the way that it feels. So
Hmm.
that's
Okay, what do you think? And it might you might have answered this previously, but what do you think is your biggest achievement till now?
huh, good, great question, man. I think Nike changed my life
Mm-hmm.
uh, for the better. I think that was a turning point of my life. But I think uh, leaving my job
Mm-hmm.
was the biggest achievement.
Okay.
uh, and believing in myself and just going towards fitness as a whole would be the biggest achievement, because
Okay.
nobody talks about that, right? Always everybody talks about getting something,
Hmm.
but talks about leaving something. But leaving something is also an achievement, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, I think that would be the biggest achievement,
I think
leaving
that's a
my job.
great perspective. That's a great perspective. Uh, Second last question.
Yeah.
Who inspires you the most, or who's your biggest inspiration?
Huh. Dude, I am super envious person. So, so whoever is, and this would be very rude, I guess,
Haha.
but I think whoever is doing something which is which I wanted to do, or which
Uh-huh.
I really wanted to do, or something who is doing better than me in some areas, I think inspires me to get better, and
Okay.
it drives me crazy that why didn't I get that, or why I didn't
Okay.
do that, or I should be doing something better. So that thing,
Okay.
anybody who's doing better than me inspires me.
That's a nice way of putting it up. And last, what's your dream or aspiration like, or where do you see going ahead now?
Okay, my I aspire to have a life where I am coaching around, or directly or indirectly, I'm coaching around 10,000 people in a day.
In a day?
In a day,
Wow.
yeah. I think
Fantastic. I wish that comes true very soon. And on that note, we'll now go and pick up a few questions from the audience's side. We have a few questions that have come for you. So, as I said, there are a couple of people who follow us regularly and always come and watch the episode and also drop in their questions. So, there's a question from Amy. What are your thoughts on those fake Instagram fitness influencers who Photoshop their body parts? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know, man. I mean, see, social media is a place for vanity, right? If, like, it's a drug. It's a drug,
Uh huh.
and people do, and all of us are doing these drugs. Everybody, whoever is on
Right.
social media, is doing these drugs, right? Some people do good quality drugs. Some people are just doing these kind of drugs, and if they are happy with whatever doing, it won't be sustainable for sure,
Hmm.
because one day they are going to have that realization that, oh, whatever I was selling isn't a right product. And people notice, people realize that, and people make it out. And when that thing happens, they have a lot more to lose, honestly. So that's, uh, I think
All right.
that
All right.
I hope I answered the question.
Hmm. I agree with you there. Yeah, because I think you can't keep on faking it. It's although it's some people say that you fake it till you make it, but I think it doesn't work anymore in the world now. You have to be true, and that's why.
Yeah, exactly. You get so complacent, and you and if you get so complacent, you stop working hard,
Hmm.
because the
Hmm.
gratitude and the kind of vanity that you receive is so instant without any work. So you stop working hard, and that is
Absolutely.
happening. It's
Absolutely.
the difference between getting something and like achieving something is this much, right?
It's a very thin line. Moving on to the next question. Which is better for keeping our mental health in check, yoga or core exercises or some other core exercise?
I think any kind of movement, like you can't define movement. uh,
Hmm.
any kind of like dancing,
Hmm.
running, swimming, or anything which makes your body move from point A to point B, even if it's like
Hmm.
yoga or whatever. If it
Hmm.
makes you happy, it makes you happy. The thing is, what I love in terms of movement would be completely different from what you love. And if we end up doing something that we love, it's going to give us mental happiness.
Hmm.
A better fitness level is also going to give us a better mental health. At the same time, we are talking about mental health in check.
Hmm.
Just any kind of movement with a good amount of uh, nutrition and good amount of uh, programming to it would
Hmm.
really help you. But I always say that try every single movement, you'll fall in love with something, and if you fall in love with something, you'll keep doing it for a consistent period of time, and any kind of consistent movement will keep you mentally happy and mentally
All
healthy
right.
also.
All right. So, last question, and then we'll wrap. How
Yeah.
to train functional threshold? I'm not sure whether it's a technical question or a complete question, but
It's a
it's
technical
by
question.
Samid. Yeah.
Yeah, functional. I won't go too deep in this. See,
Mm-hmm.
functional threshold or FTP basically is your ability to sustain highest power output for a very long period of time, so around 45 to 60 minutes. Uh, but it also depends if you're a trained athlete or not.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Most of them can sustain it for like 10 minutes or
Mm-hmm.
20. I personally cannot sustain it more than 15 to 20 minutes. In order to do that, you will have to do a lot more conditioning workouts. You have to work on your aerobic, anaerobic strength. And you have to, personally, for me, what has really worked is like focusing on block programming, where I focus on 6 weeks of just strength training, 6 weeks of just hypertrophy training,
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks of endurance and power training, and
Mm-hmm.
then a last gap of like 2 or 3 weeks where I just push my body as much as possible and try to increase my functional training threshold as much as possible.
All right.
Am
All
I
right.
making sense?
All right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on that note, we are almost at 1 hour 20-minute mark. I think we have covered
Yeah.
almost broad questions, audience's question, rapid fire, and everything. So I would ask you to maybe put in a closure note, and then we will wrap.
Okay. My closing note would be
Did you
um,
enjoy the conversation?
I love, yeah, exactly what I'm saying. Like, my closing note would be like, and you are one of the major inspiration for me to start my podcast, man. And I really
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much for
that.
that. My pleasure. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And but my this is the thing, right? I've realized that one of the major things that has helped me reach from point A to point B, even if I want to reach to point Z, is that I wanted to reach from point A to point Z. And if you don't want it, you won't get it.
Mhm.
And and if you really want it, you will move in some ways or the other. And whoever is listening, if the only thing which I can ask you to is like just make sure that you move in whatever direction you want to move, and don't over analyze for what the situation is going to result in,
Mhm.
and just make your move. This is probably the only time in humanity and in human history where you have everything on your fingertips for free. And
Absolutely.
if you want to make a mark, this is the best time, and you're going to do it not only for yourself, for also but also for the future generation. Our parents never had this opportunity, nor or any of our generation. And this is probably the only time where you can actually make a massive amount of difference in the society. So if you want to do something, this is the time, and do it, man. And yeah, I think that would be the closing note.
Fantastic. So on that note, we'll end the podcast. I have to give a closure note myself so that I can wrap this podcast. I'll see the backstage, Kunal, and before I put you off the stream, uh, uh, a sincere thanks from my side, from my entire audience's side. I'm sure people who weren't able to join us live and they're going to come back later on, they will find this very enriching, very insightful from the podcast point of view. And I think we really touch base upon a lot of things and very important things that people typically don't see. And of course, as I said, I have seen you grown by leaps and bounds, and I'm so happy that we had this conversation. And I would definitely love to host you once again, maybe a couple of months down the line. I will meet you at the
I will,
backstage, Kunal, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'll see you in a
yeah,
second.
I will
Thank
work
you.
super hard to make sure that I come back to your podcast, man.
That would be a pleasure for me. Thank you so much, Kunal. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, on that note, thank you for being with us and thank you for watching Cracking the Code CTC Live 17th episode with Kunal Rajput. So, before I close or wrap today's podcast, couple of quick things from my side. One, most importantly, if you are watching this right now or maybe later on, make sure you like the video. Guys, the more you like the video, the more YouTube algorithm pushes it, and it is very, very important. So, we are trying to create high quality, good information, knowledgeable infotainment content for all of you guys. But please make sure you give us your love, you give us your support, you help us spread a word about it. So like the video. If you are here for the first time, if you are listening to this podcast or any of other Cracking the Code episodes later on, make sure you also subscribe the channel and turn on that bell icon. It's very, very important for us to make sure you are receiving the notifications right on time. So like the video, subscribe the channel and turn on the bell icon. Also, what better than with the word of mouth? So spread, help us spread the word. Make sure you're sharing the podcast in your network, in your WhatsApp group, in your on your social media. If you're liking the content, make sure you put out a code there, because every and each kind of share or subscription counts for us. Now, two most important things. One, the edited episode with Gursimran Khamba and Devaya Bopana is out on Codesign Labs YouTube channel. If you haven't watched those episodes on the live, go to Codesign Labs YouTube channel. All you have to do is search Co-Design Labs on YouTube and you'll find the channel. The episode 8 and 9, Gursimran Khamba and Devaya Bopana, is out. Go and watch them. Drop us a comment in the section and let us know whether you like them or not, and what's your feedback on that. And last but not the least, before I wrap, also let us know who do you want in the next upcoming episodes. The input from your sides have been really very helpful. I've been getting a couple of DMs from you on Instagram, and also a few of you have been commenting onto the live chat, and even once the episode ends. So make sure you let us know who do you want in the next and upcoming episodes, and we'll try to get you a couple of good people for the next podcast. And there's a huge lineup out there. Make sure you keep on watching us every Thursday 4 p.m. And on that note, I'm Dilnawaz Khan signing off from this episode of Cracking the Code. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for once again watching this episode, and I hope to see you next Thursday 4 p.m. Thank you so much. Have a great day, have a great weekend. Stay at home, stay safe, and take care of your health. And I'll see you next Thursday. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.